Nick Krueger, recruiting analyst. After Jimbo Fisher seemingly had one foot out the door for days prior to being hired as Texas A&M's new head coach, reports began to surface that players at Florida State would transfer if he decided to stay. Meanwhile, many of the players committed to Texas A&M have expressed willingness to see who the next Aggies coach would be before deciding what to do with their commitments. That seems to be a favorable scenario for Fisher after the wheels fell off the wagon in Tallahassee this season, but that doesn't mean he should waste any time making a few important calls to some key players. More Florida State commits react to Fisher's departure. 5 teams that benefit Grant Gunnell. Nick Krueger, Rivals.com. Fisher didn't have a quarterback committed in his 2018 class at Florida State that he might have otherwise convinced to join him in College Station, but A&M has a good one committed in 2019 in Gunnell. Fisher has a reputation for his work with quarterbacks, which should help keep Gunnell interested in staying. The Houston-area quarterback fell into the group of players that was likely committed to the school barring something drastic, so Fisher should feel like he has a good chance with him. In the meantime, he has 2 young players in Kellen Mond and Nick Starkel to work with and prove that the Aggies' passing attack is headed the right direction. Deshaun White. Nick Krueger, Rivals.com. White is arguably the Texas A&M commit most likely to flip to another program, but is also one of the Aggies' top defensive commitments. White picked the Aggies in a close decision over Oklahoma, but he has since taken an official visit to Norman, and Texas has been making him more and more of a priority over the past few weeks. White could likely be convinced to stay as well, but Fisher shouldn't waste too much time before making that call. Leon O'Neal. Nick Krueger, Rivals.com. The fear with O'Neal is that a few other notable programs have kept him in mind since his commitment over the summer, and he's taken official visits elsewhere this fall. O'Neal was also one of the first to acknowledge that he would like to stay at A&M should the Aggies hire a coach that will continue to improve the program. Few other commits have been as vocal and visible as O'Neal, who could really reinforce the effort to keep the class as it is now together. Jalen Waddle, Rivals.com. Fisher's move to Florida State could tip the scales pretty heavily in favor of the Aggies and their pursuit of Waddle. For weeks, many have felt Alabama has been the leader for the dynamic slot receiver, but Oregon has remained heavily in the picture, and A&M was already one of the finalists for his final official visit. Waddle took his official visit to Florida State earlier this season, but now Fisher has a second opportunity to host Waddle, who already has a number of close friends committed to the Aggies. Jalen Curry. Nick Krueger, Rivals.com. Curry, a 2019 Rivals 100 standout, is currently committed to Florida State but transferred to St. Pius X over the summer and is now teammates with Gunnell. Nobody expects Gunnell to not have been trying at least a little bit to sway Curry to reconsider A&M, and their chemistry on the field this season could provide an exciting glimpse into the Aggies' offensive future. Curry had plenty of people thinking that he was an Aggies lean prior to his commitment to the Seminoles, so that should play into things pretty quickly. Marvin Wilson, Soonerscoop.com. Josh McCuistion actually calling Wilson probably isn't allowed, but for all the talk about players transferring away from Florida State, Wilson should be as a likely candidate to transfer to Texas A&M. The move would allow him to be closer to family and, as a nice byproduct, give a major lift in the recruitment of Waddle. Wilson finished high school as the second-ranked player in the country, but didn't make a huge impact on the field for the Seminoles this season. Perhaps a change back to more familiar surroundings would be something that would interest him.